So if you're a filmmaker or you're just a hobbyist looking to get into film, the AI tools that are available today make it easier than ever to quickly generate ideas and stories and really start understanding how all of this stuff works. And so in this video today, I'm going to show you how to go from scratch and using just a few affordable tools, create an entirely AI generated film. So first, let me just roll a sample of this book trailer that I've made, and then I'm going to show you how we can actually build it from start to finish.
Ilsa is 17, pregnant, penniless, and alone. Cast out by her father, she's thrust into the arms of Lebensborn, the secretive Nazi program designed to propagate Aryan blood. Yet Ilsa harbors a secret of her own. Her unborn child's father is Jewish, surrounded by the very architects of the Reich's sinister vision. She must rely on her cunning, her knowledge of herbs, and her indomitable spirit to hide the truth and keep her child safe. When Lebensborn begins to question Ilsa's place in the Reich, the program becomes a gilded cage. With each day edging...
Okay, I'll show you the rest of the film as we go, but I'm going to take you through step by step how you can actually create these. Now, first, let me say that I am not advocating at all to replace, humans and their perspective in telling stories. I believe deeply that it is our ability to create relationships and experiences that make stories worth watching. So this is not about, removing the human element. What the technology is really allowing us to do today is to express our vision and create something to really allow other people to feel that in a much stronger way. So right now, the way that we're using this is, in place of like a storyboard or a pitch, we can put together a concept really powerfully. But then also, if you're a hobbyist or you're a creator and you don't have the resources to make a whole film, these tools and technology, they're available very affordably. And this is not a difficult skill set to learn to be able to go and create your own example. So today I'm going to show you in this video how to actually make, a trailer for a book. And that's a great example where, an independent author is not going to have thousands of dollars to go out and make a professional trailer to launch their book, but they absolutely could get this software stack and learn how to create this and be able to market their content in a much stronger way. But then if you are a professional filmmaker, such as ourselves, if we're doing a 6-figure pitch, do I want to just give over storyboards and then narrate it? Or do I want to actually bring the story to life with voices and moving images? That's far more compelling, and that's much more likely to be remarkable, stand out, and actually help us get the gig. So enough of the philosophy. Let's dive into exactly how we do this. So first of all, let me take you through the tech stack. So really what we're looking at here is we are going to use 11 labs to generate the voice. And so we've got a couple voices, but there's a main primary voice. So I'll show you how to use 11 labs to actually generate the voiceover for your actual story. And then we are going to use Midjourney to actually create the images. So there's a whole bunch of different image generators. Midjourney is somewhat of the standard. This is the alpha site. I'm going to go into Discord and show you how to actually create the images inside of that. Once we're done with our images, then we need to move those over to Runway. And we're going to use Runway to actually take the static image and make it motion, turn it into video. Now, on top of that, we need to actually start building our film. And so there's a couple little, finishing touches that we're going to look to do. We'll head over to Lens Distortions, which is where I'm going to find a soundtrack. I can also get sound effects there. And then this is an optional step, but I want to be transparent in exactly how I did this. I also used Topaz Video to then upscale using AI, the actual generations, because what you'll see what comes out of Runway is it's still a little soft and falls apart a bit. So then I run it through Topaz Video, and that upscales it. Again, this is optional, and if you're running something on social media, you could skip this step, but I want to show you exactly what I did. And then lastly, at the end, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to really maximize your success, how you go through this, because there's a lot that I've learned in what works and what doesn't work and how to kind of get results quickly. My first short film, I'll show you just a really quick clip of that. This one took probably a day or two to make. Right, so it takes a while in the beginning. Now this last one, this book trailer, it only took a couple hours. So the learning curve, once you get, the fundamentals down, you could move pretty darn quickly. So let's dive in. first of all, I want to get our bass in. So I want to actually get the narration and the soundtrack so we can kind of get a sense of the feeling of the story and then start generating images to match and then turn those images into video. Now, I'm doing it this way because I'm not going out and shooting footage. I would be completely the other way if I had gone and shot a film and had done the interview. I would let that lead. But because I'm creating this from scratch, I want to feel the story and use that to help me generate ideas that I'll then literally turn words into images, right? So for this example, I am using, we're going to create a book trailer. And this is a perfect way of using this technology to create a piece of content that can really help an independent author, release their book. And so the book is called To Look Upon the Sun. And I basically asked for a less than 60-second summary that I could use to create a trailer. And so that's what you see here. And all I'm going to do is take this book summary, which is, written as a trailer. And then I'm going to come over here to 11 Labs. Now, there are a lot of different options for voice generation. 11 Labs is kind of the main player in the space, has got the most options. And so we love using 11 Labs. But really, we just go over to Voices first, and you go to Voice Library, and you'll see that there are just tons of voices, right? So you want to pick the right voice. And so I'm just going to click filters here. And now I can very quickly go through and I can choose, this is a story of a female in Germany who becomes pregnant with a Jewish father, and then how she goes into this secret, Nazi breeding program to try and survive. But then her baby's also half Jewish, so she's got to hide that fact. So I can then come in and I'll choose female, and I'm going to choose young. And in this case, I'm going to choose English. Now, I could go with like a German accent and stuff like that, but, this is already going to start narrowing it down. And I'm even going to choose, so if, I can look at professional or voice design, different styles like that, and you just hit sample.
The biggest room in the world is room for improvement. The biggest room in the world is room for improvement.
And you're going to just hit
this is a great voice for audio.
Sample until you
fatal to enter any war without
find the one that you want for your character. Now, once you do that, you can add it to Voice Lab, which is effectively your favorites. And so when I come over here, what you'll see is, unfortunately, it doesn't really fit our story, but it's called Sexy American Female Voice. And so I'll show you what it sounds like. So this is the voice. And now all I'm doing is taking the script, right? And I'm just going to copy that in. I'll skip the title. I'll move that into the voice generator. Now, you can hit generate and it's going to go, but we want to do a little bit better than that. So here we have our voice settings, right? So you've got your stability, clarity, similarity, and style exaggeration. And so what I'm going to do is I generally am going to push a little bit more exaggerated. I'm going to bring the similarity down a little bit, and I'm going to make it more variable because I don't want it robotic and homogeneous. I want to really, have it be more of a story that was going to slow down and speed up and exaggerate words and everything. And so then all I'm going to do is hit generate. And as soon as I do that, it's already going to start generating. And in a second, it's going to start playing as it's actually generating. And so I will show you that. Okay, so it's now still generating, but we're going to go ahead and start playing a preview as it's actually going. And so here's how it comes out just with these settings.
Ilsa is 17, pregnant, penniless, and alone. Cast out by her father, she's thrust into the arms.
And you can see as I'm playing it, it's actually, I don't know if you noticed that, the timer got longer because it's generating more for me.
Of Lebensborn, the secretive Nazi program designed to propagate Aryan blood.
So that's all I'm going to do. And then when it's done generating, I will hit download, and then I'll move that into my editor. Now, a tip with 11 Labs and generating your voiceover is not all going to be perfect right away. So it's now done. I'll hit download, and now I actually have the entire voiceover. But sometimes you're not going to get great way to say that. You're not going to get the pronunciation you want, and you might have to redo things. And so what you want to look at is just trying to, right now they don't have a way of like bolding or italicizing to like suggest intonation. Though I imagine they're working on that. But just try adding like periods and that kind of thing. So you can try and change the different way it's said if we wanted to, create different spacing. So, right? So I could just take this and say, and just add periods, line breaks, and that sort of thing. And then I will regenerate this as an example. and you'll see.
Ilsa is 17, pregnant, penniless, and alone.
So it changes for sure how it's actually said. And I can go like this and add more. And then try one more time. And it's going to again change just how that whole line
Ilsa is
feels.
17, pregnant, penniless, and alone.
Complete difference from the beginning, right? Where it was a little bit more homogeneous and right through. So know that how you actually space it out works. Now, when I did this, 80% of it worked. And then I would just go in and I would dial in some of the words or some of the pronunciation and play around and do multiple exports. But that's how we're going to get our voiceover. Now, I also want to get a soundtrack because I want to be able to feel this as I then use that to create ideas for my imagery. And so what I'm going to do for that is I headed over to Lens Distortions. I love them for cinematic music. They also do great sound effects and visual effects. And so I just played around in here. We found some different options that sounded good. And I will show you the track that I used, which I believe is called Museum. Then I'm just going to lay those in together. So let me head over to DaVinci. The track is called Museum, and here's my 11 Labs voiceover. So what I'm going to do is actually disable everything else so that all you're going to hear is kind of where I started, right? So I'm going to take off any of the sound effects, anything else, and I want to show you now just where I'm starting. So I've got the voiceover, I've got a soundtrack that I like, but I'm going to use this to start to feel my story, and then we're going to dive into how we actually create the images and then video.
Yet Ilsa harbors a secret of her own. Her unborn child's father is Jewish, surrounded by the very architects of the Reich's sinister vision. She must rely on her cunning, her knowledge of herbs, and her indomitable spirit to hide the truth.
Okay, so hopefully you can see that even just with the voiceover and the right soundtrack, we can start to feel it. And that's huge because that's what we're going to use to start generating our images. So we are going to now head over to Discord, and we are going to start actually diving into Midjourney. Now, I'm not going to go over in this tutorial how to actually get, connect Midjourney to Discord and get your account set up. That's not very hard. You're going to find 100 tutorials inside our AI Masterclass or on YouTube on how to do this. It's fairly simple. So I'm going to assume that you can get set up there. And then what we're going to start to do, though, is actually create our images. Now, the first thing that we want to do when we're creating a story like this is we need to create our character. And Midjourney recently released a character reference ability where you could actually reference the facial features and the other features of a character to create consistency across images. Now, this is huge when you're making a short film because now you can create your character and have them appear in multiple scenes. So to start, all I did was put 1940s German girl, haggard clothing, long blonde, attractive, tall with broad shoulders, strong jaw, and then I did a 16:9 aspect ratio, and I repeated that 3 times. And this is just coming from the description of the book and how the character is described. And so you can see the kind of examples that it came back with. And some of them are a little young. So then I ran it again, and I went 1940s 18-year-old German girl, made her a little bit older, which is the age that she's in the book. And you can see they starting to get a little bit more accurate. And then as I came down here, this was the one that I really liked. And so that was going to be Ilse. That was going to be the character. And so then what we do is we just hit, U1 here for this one, and it's going to upscale that. We're going to choose that, and then this becomes our character. Now, it's so powerful with this whole character reference feature is now like we've created our base, and we're able to actually use this image to be able to create other scenes with this character. So, for example, I can come in here and I can create, type imagine, and now I could have, and where this really works well is you still want to share the details of the character. So we would still say 18-year-old, 1940s, blonde hair, that kind of thing. And then we would actually use the character reference. Whereas if you just kind of say, somebody walking outside and attach the image, you're going to find that you don't get quite as good of results. So we could say 18-year-old woman lying in bed, reading a book, long blonde hair, 1940s in Europe, poor, small bedroom. Here's an example of the description that I recall from the book. Now, here's the real, the real special sauce here is we use this character reference, which is just -- cref. And then all I'm going to do is take the link to this image, and I'm going to paste that in. So what that's doing is it's telling Midjourney to reference that character. I'm also going to put in an aspect ratio of 16:9 so that I can actually make sure that it comes out in the ratio that I want. And then there is a character weight that you can do. And so character weight from 0 is going to be that it's just pulling their facial features and their hair. And then 100 is going to be more of everything that they're actually wearing. So depending on how much you want to take. So what I've done here is I'm actually going to show you both. So I'll hit enter. Now what that's doing is it's asking me if I want to run multiple prompts because I'm running it once with a 0 character weight, once with a 100 character weight. So let's see what that actually comes back with as we've now created our character. And then we're going to try and put them into different scenes. Now, what we see is one, some of the references are quite good. And they could be a little bit better. Now, what you'll also notice is the style is quite off, where everything's black and white. So what I want to do, and this will happen, you'll try things and they're not going to be quite right. So what we want to do is use that as feedback and go back and try again. So now we're going to say 18-year-old woman laying in bed reading a book, long blonde hair, strong jaw, 1940s Europe, poor small bedroom. We'll use the same aspect ratio and the same character reference that we had before. I'm even going to do the same character weight as before of both. And I'm just using these brackets here in 0, 100. And that's going to tell it to do both. But here, now let me show you the difference. Now I'm going to change it to vintage style color film. Actually, let me word that better. Vintage film color style. So I'm telling it I want it to be in a vintage style filmic look, but in color. Now let's run that again. We've added a little bit more details about the character. We also added the color style film to get it out of black and white. And now we'll see what this comes back with. And hopefully you can tell that they're coming back better. Right? Now, notice, you'll see in the prompt up here, this is a character weight 0. So notice how now she's wearing different things. Whereas here, when I use a character weight 100, she's wearing the same things. And so we could continue to play around with this and add more details into our prompt to get exactly what we want around our character. And you can also use the repeat parameter, which is just --r and then like 3, and that'll repeat it 3 times. Now you cannot do repeat with permutation, so I can't do a character weight of 0 and 100 and repeat at this stage because it ends up creating just too many prompts and they don't allow you to do that. But if I look at this, like this one I feel is quite good. And so you're just going to play around with it a bit and be used to that when you're creating things with AI. So now let's basically what we're going to do is keep going through. And I started with creating a bunch of images that were, and this is the one that I actually, as I did it for the film, create a bunch of different images that are related to different scenes. And I kind of took it scene by scene, and I was thinking of the different things that I might want to put inside of the film. And so I've got her, reading in bed. She was into plants and herbs and used that as a way of kind of surviving. So you'll see that I'll try different lot of things. Her walking outside. She, it's the downside of when the SS officers are after her and she's getting investigated. Some more details related to herbs. And this is just, I'm just typing a lot of these in and running different prompts. Now, a big tip is you're trying to think of things that don't have a ton of motion, and you're trying to think of scenes in a way that's not going to show a ton of motion, because that's going to make it a lot more believable. So this plant is a great example of how we could, just subtly have it sway, and it's going to feel very realistic. Whereas if you try and have somebody like walking down a street, it really starts to fall apart at this part with where the tech is at. So let's just take something like this, and we'll show you how to actually create motion with that. Another example is like with this car driving. A high angle shot doesn't actually have as much motion versus something low. And so I create several generations, and it's actually like this image that I'm going to use, because it's not going to move nearly as much, and I can make it look and feel real. So let's go through what that process looks like to now, we create our character, we use our character reference, and we start building a whole bunch of images that are going to then become scenes. I like to do these in batches of like 5 to 10, create a bunch of images, download them, move them over to Runway, make videos, and start building a scene. And then that's going to spur more ideas. Some I can make better, some I can kind of keep going with the story. But let's take this. All I'm going to do is save this image here. And now what we're going to do is hop over to Runway. And so inside of Runway, we are going to go into Generate Videos, which is where I'm at. Let me start here. And so inside of Runway, we just go to text image into video. And then all we're going to do is take that image that we just made in Midjourney, drop it here. And now we can basically describe what we want it to do. Now, again, this is a perfect example. So these results are going to be good, I hope, because we're not doing a ton of motion. So what I can do here, first of all, is the motion brush, which is really what is allowing this to go to the next level. So I'm going to click motion brush, and it's going to pull this up. And what you'll see over here is I have 5 different brushes, meaning I can choose 5 different elements and choose how I want them to move. So here's a brush, and then here below is the settings. Do I want to move horizontal, vertical, change the proximity, or just have like noise to it? It also has an auto detect area. So I'm going to turn that on. So I got the paintbrush on brush 1. Now watch what happens. As I mouse over, it actually just chooses that part. And so what I can do is pick this plant with my brush, and now I'm just going to add ambient noise. I just want it subtly moving. Then I'm going to move to brush 2, and I'm actually going to take the top, and I'm going to actually have it move just a little bit less. I'll take brush 3, and I can pick this foreground. And for a lot of this, I'm actually just adding ambient, meaning I just want it like subtly moving to bring some life to it. And then I'll pick this other part of foreground, same thing, just a little bit of ambient. So that's all I'm going to do here. Actually, let's use brush 5, and we'll just come down here for this foreground area, give it a little bit of ambient as well. Okay, so now we can just say that this is a small plant blowing in the wind. Generally, giving it a description of what's happening does help your results. But then we also have the camera controls. So this is what you want the camera to do overall. And, like I'd said before, if you try and do too much, it ends up not working nearly as well. So I'm just going to do a subtle zoom. That's it. Now, some other times you're going to maybe try like a tilt or a pan, all different. You can do a roll, things like that. But the more motion you introduce, generally, you're going to have to try multiple generations to get it right, and you're going to get less predictable and often less desirable results. So I'll hit save. And then over here, there's a couple more settings to know about. I do want it to interpolate the frames. I do want it to upscale, and I do want it to remove the watermark. Here's a seed number should you want to get similar results. You often don't need to worry about that, but really with the thing, we do want to remove the watermark, we want to upscale, and we want to smooth out our frames. And then I'm just going to hit generate. And now it's going to come over here, and it's going to start creating that. Now, a big thing to note is, now I'm running out of credits because I've been busy Runway this month, but what I can do is I can actually come in here and I could change these settings, and I could already generate another image, right? So again, it's about iteration, and you don't have to wait for the one to come back. After you start getting used to it, I will, often then change a couple things, and it's often in my camera controls where I might try like a raise and a tilt, and I might try different things and do 2-3 generations and then pick the one that I want. So we'll wait for this to go, but while it's doing that, let me show you an even more powerful example. And so that is going to be we'll take this scene here. So we have this scene with Ilse standing in front of all of the SS officers. This one here. So this is a great example of, like, I love the power of this scene and, you know, really what we're able to create and how expensive this would be as a filmmaker to make this. And so to be able to really, you know, show somebody the concept, the idea quickly is powerful. So now what we're going to do is we're going to delete that, but let's look at how we can apply the motion brush here. So we could come and we could choose Ilse, our main character, who's in front, and just select her entire body and just give it just a small amount of ambient so that she's kind of moving in the front. Then what I could do is I could choose these different officers and kind of pick, you know, a little bit at random to give them a little bit of motion. I'll pick some different officers, and I'm just using these brushes and selecting. Now, if I change my mind, I can hit the eraser and I can take it off. And there we go. And I'll change the amount of ambient noise in different ones so that, again, we have some people that are just moving a little bit, some people that are moving a lot. And you can use, you know, the actual motion, which is more for like the car. I want the car moving, so I'll show you an example of how we can actually do that using these different things. But for this, I'm just looking for subtle motion. And so there we go. I'll do this one at 1.5, and then my last one, I'll pick the person that I have not chosen yet and give them, let's just make them move. We'll just keep it at ambient. We'll keep it simple. Then same idea here. All I'm going to do is, that's my motion brush. All I'm going to do with the camera motion, I'm just going to zoom in. Now, I might try a rise and a tilt. Like that would be a nice move to kind of come up and make the scene feel bigger. However, it's going to take multiple generations to be able to do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that and hit generate. And this one, I'm not even going to put any words. I've just told it what, painted it in. I'm going to hit generate, and now it's going to start throwing that down there. And what you're going to see is, let's take a look at our plant in the wind. Pretty darn good, right? And notice how, because I use motion brush separately for the top of the plant versus the bottom, versus the foreground, it really starts to come alive because it's not moving together. You're really creating this, like it feels pretty darn solid. And so all I'm going to hit now is download. Let's head back into DaVinci, and now we can look at how we start to bring this together. And so really what I've done is, here are the different images turned into videos as we start to, actually build the story, and we just throw them in the timeline. And you'll see all the different footage that I've created here. Here's the one that I made that I just showed you a second ago. And then using this character reference, you can see that we can get pretty darn consistent with our character as we go through these different scenes, right? So let me show you, as I start to add in the video here, how this starts to come together.
Ilsa is 17, pregnant, penniless, and alone. Cast out by her father, she's thrust into the arms of Lebensborn, the secretive Nazi program designed to propagate Aryan blood. Yet Ilsa harbors a secret of her own.
Okay, so you can see it starting to come together pretty darn quick, and that was just running a bunch of prompts in Midjourney, trying to keep that style consistent, which I'll touch on it a little bit more in a second, throwing them into Runway, doing exactly what we said, and then downloading and upscaling them if you want to, or throwing them in directly. Now, a couple tips here. Notice in the opening, I start with this wide shot and then come in closer. It's a great way to keep you in a scene, and I actually do this several times. Same thing here.
The program becomes a gilded cage.
And we come in tighter, right? And it's a great way to really keep you in the same scene, but kind of keep us moving around. And the trick here is inside of Midjourney, you can use this, and then what I did was basically hit the zoom, and I'm able to zoom out here. So it takes this image, I hit zoom out, we'll just regenerate that so you can see it at the bottom, and now it's giving me a wide and a tight. I'm running both of them independently through Midjourney, but it's a great way to allow you to kind of live in a scene a little bit more. And you'll see that I do this quite often. Even here, starting wide. So here we'll start wide and then we'll punch in closer on the tray in this kind of decrepit medical room.
Did by the very architects of the Reich's sinister vision. She must...
Right, so it helps quite a bit. Now, let's come on down here and you'll see that the result of that zoom out, right? And so it's giving us options. And so you can keep going with that, but using the zoom out and zoom in and then doing multiple animations is a really powerful way to keep it super consistent. And now the one other trick that you can do, and this is a little bit more advanced, we show you how to do this in our AI Masterclass, and I'm sure you can find some other tutorials on YouTube, but you can also do face swapping. And this is more complicated that you have to create your own server, and then you invite a face swap bot to play together. It's not that hard to set up. It sounds a lot more complicated, but what it allows me to do is I can even go one step further, and I can take this image of Ilse here. So if I save this image, I'll download it, and then I can save ID, which is the command for the face swapping, and I can actually save the image of Ilse's face and hit enter. Oh, I need to set a name as Ilse, so that it's going to remind the face swap bot of it, and then I will use set ID to tell it which name I want to do. It'll be Ilse. And so now what I could do is if I had one of these and it was like, it's close, but it's not exactly what I want, I can actually upscale, say this first image here, and then I can right click and I just click apps over to in swapper, and that's automatically going to change it to the face that I've chosen. And so I've set it as Ilse, and you'll see that come back up. And so it's stronger, right? You can see that we're dialed in a little bit more. It's more advanced, and really that's what the Midjourney feature is trying to get at. But, I found that using that extra step, if you really want to nail it, you can use the face swapping feature as well. It is another, I think, $5 a month maybe, but it does take it to that next level. But all I can do here, if I change this to set ID, now I'll change it to myself as an example. This is a great way to create images of you for your website or pitches or whatever else. We can change this. This is not gonna be pretty, but just to show you what happens. I'm sorry, but you can see it then takes my face and puts it in the image. We're gonna delete that right away. So that's a couple ways of how you can create your character consistency. We hop over here. We start then throwing editing our video, right? So I've just thrown these different generations in. So to create this, I'm using that trick where I'm, taking the wides and moving into the tights to be able to get, the same scene very quickly. Now, the other big thing that you want to keep in mind here is sound design. And just using sound effects is such a powerful way to bring people into your story so much more. And so let me show you the same scene with and without the sound effects, just so you can see the difference. Because this is often where filmmakers are just leaving so much story on the table. It's like it's an 80-20. It takes minutes to add to your sound design, but it's going to connect so much deeper because you're helping us feel it. Sound is half of what we see because it really creates that much more immersive, connected experience. And so we're thinking about the sounds that might be related to that scene. So let me just play this here for a couple seconds without sound design.
To propagate Aryan blood. Yet Ilse harbors a secret of her own. Her unborn child's father is Jewish, surrounded by the very architects of the Reich's sinister...
Okay, so let's play the exact same thing, now turning on the sound design. And what I'm going to look to do is just create little ambient noises and textures related to what's happening. And this is not going, super far. I'm trying to do this in a couple hours. I'm trying to be efficient. You can do a lot more here, but just with a little bit of sound design, look at what happens.
Designed to propagate Aryan blood. Yet Ilse harbors a secret of her own. Her unborn child's father is Jewish, surrounded by the very architects of the Reich's sinister vision. She must
So it really starts bringing us in a lot more, and it gets it away from feeling too artificial and animated by bringing in that sound. It really does bring the story to life a lot more. So a couple options there. You can use inside of Lens Distortions. They do have some sound effects as well, which is where we got our music from. There's also Sound Snap, which is a crazy library for sound effects that you can use. It's kind of a one-stop shop. They now do sound effects. They do soundtracks, as well. But this is great for being able to, I searched, I think, gurney, and you can kind of get the sound of like a gurney coming down the hallway. So I can use that outside of this because there's nothing moving inside of that medical room, but I can have a gurney coming down the hallway and it starts to bring it to life. And so you just hit download, throw that in. Now, another thing that's really awesome is inside of 11 Labs, they have recently released sound effects. I believe we're on the beta list, so I don't know that everybody has this, but gurney rolling down hallway, and you can just generate sound effects as well. And this is a little bit hit or miss. Some things come out perfect, some are a little off, but if you're using 11 Labs, great place to actually use this as well. Now, one thing that you might have noticed here as we make this, and another tip that I'll show you if you really want to, this is going to take more time, but if you really want to push it, is here we have, this is Ilsa's boyfriend who is Jewish, then she gets pregnant, and that's kind of the central conflict of the story is he departs and, disappears. She's now got to figure out what she's going to do. She's pregnant, alone, and her baby is half Jewish. And so I want to bring him in as a character. So I created another character. And, to really help you feel it, I have, a little bit of his voice coming in. And so I used 11 Labs for that and, pulled in an accent and all of that kind of stuff, which is exactly what I've showed you. None of that is all that hard. But notice when I play it, his lips are off.
Is Jewish, surrounded by...
So if you wanted to have the character actually speak the line, you can do that. And so this is going to be another tool. So what we're going to do here is go over to DID. And so in DID, this is where we're going to be able to actually create like talking avatars. And so I'm going to go ahead and log into DID. And then what you'll see here is I can go into Studio, create video. And then what I can do is instead of using one of their avatars, such as this person here, I can actually upload it. So I'm going to do the same process where I'm going to upload that image from Midjourney. So what I'm going to take is I want the image of her boyfriend here. So I upload that. And now it puts it here, and then I type in my text. So I just had him saying, "Come here, Ilse," and then I put her laughing. I can change the speed. I can actually change the emotion. I want it happy, as an example. And then I have to come in and choose my voice again. So I'll do male. Let's say that this is a conversational, and
love all, trust a few, do wrong to none.
Okay, so...
Okay, let's say we like Chris. And then all we have to do is hit generate. And so there we go. And now what it's going to do is generate this. And
come here, Ilsa.
There you go. And it actually creates and animates the person talking.
Come here, Ilsa. Come here, Ilsa.
Now, the body position's off. And so if we were to do a more standard into camera look, we're going to get better results versus him lying there. But still, it's not
Come here,
bad.
Ilsa.
So let me show you what I have currently, which is this.
Come here, Ilsa.
Jewish.
And I love the feeling of the scene, and so I ended up going with that one instead. But let me show you if I switch it here. You could go with.
Come here, Ilsa.
Jewish.
Do I like that more than the other version? I don't. So that's why I went with the one where his mouth is not perfect. If I really wanted to spend the time to do this, you could mask out around his head, and then you could animate other portions in Runway, right? Like I could have his arm moving in Runway and then kind of just mask them together, and that would go a long way to really helping it feel a little bit more real, because part of the challenge with DID is it's just his head moving. Whereas I could use Runway to move his arm or have this kind of fluttering in the wind and then just mask in his head. More work, but like that's really going to sell it and allow you to have him talking. So those are some of the big tips, and that's generally the process that we are going to go through. Is we're going to use Midjourney to create the images. We're going to, really in all of it, one of the big tips is the idea of iteration and repeating. So inside of Midjourney, I'm going to use that repeat function a ton, where if I'm coming up with an image, I can actually go in and I would just hit repeat a couple times. And inside of Runway, I'm also going to create multiple generations to try that. And so trying different camera moves, trying different images helps you come up with something. And then another thing that you can do is actually upload images. And so here I actually found historic images and used an image reference. So you can upload that, kind of like the character reference, but now you're actually submitting another image. And so you can create something similar if, in this case, this is a real, Lebensborn was a real program. So there are actual images of that. So if you're finding that it's not matching, you can actually pull image references as well. And then you also, to dial things in, if you find something's off, you can go ahead and you can use this very region to actually go ahead and remove things if you wanted, or change or edit or whatever else. This is not intended to be a Midjourney masterclass. So, diving more into Midjourney, you're going to see how you can really tweak these. But the 80-20 of what you need to know to be able to do this is, being able to just kind of describe your scene. You want to be able to use this character reference feature and then be able to move those images over to Runway. You can use images as a style reference now as well. And so if I create kind of that look, this vintage film look, I can actually copy this and I can use it as a S reference, which will just be a style reference. So this can kind of make sure that my images all look and feel the same. You can also use a similar prompt structure in terms of calling it like a vintage old style film, and I used color to make sure that it didn't do black and white. So there are different ways of achieving it, but that's going to help create using character, using the character reference, using the style reference, or using similar prompt structures is going to help you a ton. So with that, let me show you the finished film, the book trailer here. This is made in a couple hours. It's just under a minute, and really it's everything that we talked about. Voiceover in 11 labs, iterating on that to get the right pronunciation, pulling some sound effects, pulling some soundtrack, and then making these different images, using this pop-in, zoom-out effect to be able to live in a scene, animating some of it inside of DaVinci, doing some like color grading and color in DaVinci to be able to really make it feel the way that I want it to feel. And then here is the finished film.
Ilsa is 17, pregnant, penniless, and alone. Cast out by her father, she's thrust into the arms of Lebensborn, the secretive Nazi program designed to propagate Aryan blood. Yet Ilsa harbors a secret of her own. Her unborn child's father is Jewish, surrounded by the very architects of the Reich's sinister vision. She must rely on her cunning, her knowledge of herbs, and her indomitable spirit to hide the truth and keep her child safe. When Lebensborn begins to question Ilsa's place in the Reich, the program becomes a gilded cage. With each day edging her closer to exposure, forced to navigate a labyrinth of lies and make unthinkable choices, her fight for survival transforms into a quest for identity, redemption, and defiance that could alter the course of her life forever.
Now, if this has been interesting and you want to know ways on how you can, leverage AI as a filmmaker even easier, we do have a masterclass. It is a incredibly low investment for all of the training you get. This would be like 1/100th of the course. And what you'd be able to do, one of the biggest things that I will show you that it really helps with is this custom developed Muse Prompt Pro, which puts all of the top prompts that filmmakers need right inside of a Chrome browser. And so I can just click this, and then, we've got things for ChatGPT, such as helping you, create interview questions, come up with visual ideas, how to light a scene. You've got things for Claude, which is another top LLM, helping you to review transcripts, pull lines, really cutting your post-production time in half. But then here, relevant to what we're doing here is prompts for Midjourney. So I can create storyboard sketches, but in this example, more aspirational images. And we've got one for advanced where you'd fill in, and all you do is fill in the prompts. And it just helps you with what's happening, characters, that sort of thing. But here it's reminding you to pick your focal length, pick your aperture, pick your camera, and then you copy it and you can paste that into Midjourney and it's giving you an excellent prompt to work with. Or there's the simpler version, and it's just giving you less parameters to think about. And then I've added in extra prompt details. And when you copy it, you can move it over and you just paste it inside of either ChatGPT, Claude, or in this example, Midjourney. So Muse Prompt Pro comes with the AI Masterclass. There's no subscriptions. It's a one-time investment, and we keep updating it. So as this technology grows, as everything else grows, we keep giving you more training so you can do things like this, but also so you can grab our tools. We have Muse Prompt Pro. We also have Storytelling Genius AI, and we're now starting to build AI agents that can go do research and draft emails and all kinds of things for you. But we're actually giving you access to these tools that we've custom built as well, which really reduces the learning curve. So you don't have to know. More than anything, it's our goal with this AI Masterclass to be your guide. Because this space is so overwhelming, because it moves quickly, I want to bring you the things that you need to know most, and then really cut your learning curve down by showing you the top things and the ways to do it. And where possible, us building custom GPTs and tools and using things like Muse Prompt Pro to make it even easier. So you don't have to know all of the mechanics on how to do it, but you can use these simple tools to get great results right away. So there's a link in the description if you'd like to know more about our AI Masterclass. It is an insanely low investment that we are updating all the time for the amount that it will really help you to use this technology as a filmmaker. I hope that this video has been helpful and it gives you some ideas. Right now, we are finding this super powerful to create pitches, to really kind of elevate instead of doing a storyboard, and how we can really help create ideas that people can emotionally feel. And now we're able to do it in hours at very low cost. So I hope this has been helpful. Leave any questions or comments below and let me know what you'd like to see next on using these tools to be able to create and push your storytelling before you actually get into the field.